Full story. What seemingly innocent family tradition was actually illegal? My own mother held me down while my father arranged my wedding to a man who'd already buried two teenage wives. So I ran. And I didn't just save myself, I exposed them all. See, in my family, a girl's life was basically over the moment she got her first period. It sounds insane, I know. But it didn't matter if you were 12, 13, or 14. That blood meant you were ready for a husband who was always at least 3 times your age. I grew up hearing this, so for a while, it just seemed normal. Until I was 11. That's when I had to watch my cousin, Mayim, get promised to a 43-year-old man just 3 days after she started her period. This man's last 2 wives had both died before they even turned 20. That was the first night I decided to stop eating. Not because I thought I was fat or because I hated food. It was because I'd noticed something. The thinnest girls in my family, the really skinny ones, they were always the last to get their period. And I knew right then that it was my only weapon. My only chance. The other girls started calling me skeleton. I didn't care. Let them talk. While they were being promised to men old enough to be their grandfathers, I was still free. But they never stopped prepping me to be a wife. Every single Friday, from 1 in the morning until 10 a.m., I was forced to serve meals to all the male family members. For hours. Without speaking. And if I made eye contact? If I made even a tiny noise? 10 lashes with a belt. They made me hold burning hot pots straight from the stove, no oven mitts, to toughen up my hands for a lifetime of kitchen work. And every night, my own mother would smear this thick, white skin lightening cream all over my face, telling me it would make me beautiful for my future husband. Besides the secret starving, I was the perfect daughter. I played the part. I never complained. I even talked about how excited I was to have kids one day. But when I was 14 and still hadn't started my period, I found something that changed my entire world. And get this, we were in the USA this whole time. My mom had just convinced us this was how things were, that any girl who didn't live like this was ugly, useless, and doomed to die alone. It all changed because of a teacher. I'd accidentally worn a t-shirt to school, and she saw my arms, just how thin I was, and she forced me into a meeting. At one point, she left to use the bathroom, but she forgot to lock her desk drawer. And inside were books on marriage laws, pamphlets with titles like Your Rights as a Young Teenager and When Culture Becomes Crime. As I read, my jaw just dropped. For the first time in my life, I saw it in black and white. Marriage under 18 was wrong. Period. No cultural exceptions. No parental consent loopholes. I stole the thinnest pamphlet I could find, shoving it into my waistband. For the next few weeks, I waited until my parents were asleep, and I memorized every single word on every page. I memorized the phone numbers for Child Protective Services. I memorized shelter addresses. I memorized the exact trigger words that would force a teacher or a doctor to make a mandatory report. So I started a rebellion. In my uncle's tool shed. I called it a wife skills group to throw off suspicion. My recruits were my 6 younger cousins, all of them yet to bleed, all of them desperate to avoid what was coming. And in that dusty shed, I taught them everything I'd learned. Which teachers were mandatory reporters. The exact words to say. We practiced in whispers. Asterisk, they're forcing me to marry. I'm only 13. Please help. Asterisk, and then, at 15, my body betrayed me. It happened during the morning food prep. The blood soaked right through my white dress. My mother let out this scream. But it wasn't a scream of fear. It was a scream of pure joy. Every woman in the house came running. They were beaming, kissing my cheeks, telling me how lucky I was. My life was over, and they were celebrating. By nightfall, my father had already chosen my husband. Hamad Habibi, a construction mogul who had buried 2 of his wives by the time they turned 23. Kidney failure, the death certificate said. But the women in my family whispered the truth. It was from too many pregnancies, too young. 2 days later, my cousin Anna, one of the girls from the shed, got her period. Within hours, she was promised to a 51-year-old man who collected wives like trophies. I watched the light just die in her eyes as they haggled over her bride price like she was a piece of livestock. That night, I slipped her my notebook. The one with every shelter number, every legal fact, every escape route. Tomorrow, I whispered, my voice shaking, tell the science teacher. Use the exact words I taught you. Her hands trembled as she took it. What about you? My wedding's not for 2 weeks, I lied. I'll figure something out. I was so wrong. Because that night, there was a knock at the door. It was CPS. My father's face went from confusion to pure fury as they asked about Anna, about underage brides, about forced marriages. The moment they left, the family descended on us like a pack of wolves. Someone had been teaching the girls Western lies. Someone had poisoned their minds. They tore the house apart looking for the source. It didn't take them long to find my journal in the toolshed. My father burned it in front of everyone, calling me diseased, contaminated, a cancer that needed to be cut out. Then he looked at me, his eyes full of hate. The wedding is tomorrow, he announced. Before she can destroy anyone else. Dawn came way too fast. In an hour, they would come to dress me in red and gold and deliver me to a man who'd already killed 2 girls with his children. My stomach churned. I heard footsteps approaching my door. I grabbed a small plastic bag I'd hidden weeks ago, a change of clothes, the shelter addresses I'd rewritten from memory, and $20 I'd stolen from my mother's purse, $1 at a time. The door handle turned. I clutched my stomach, doubled over, and let out a groan that wasn't entirely fake. My mother swept in, already dressed in her wedding finery. Get up, she commanded. The beautician will be here in 30 minutes. I groaned louder. Mama, something's wrong. My stomach. Fear made the tears easy. It hurts so bad. She looked disgusted. In our culture, a sick bride was a bad omen. You went to the bathroom 20 minutes ago. Please, I begged, stumbling toward the door. I need to go now. She let go of my arm. 5 minutes, she snapped. The aunties are waiting. I stumbled down the hall, hiding the bag under my nightgown. I locked the bathroom door and immediately climbed onto the toilet. The ceiling tile I'd loosened weeks ago came right down. I shoved the bag inside, then actually used the toilet to make the right sounds. 3 minutes passed. I flushed, ran the water, then groaned again. Mama, I can't stop. Her fist pounded on the door. Open this door. I can't. I cried, climbing back onto the toilet. The small window above it had been painted shut for years, but I'd been secretly working on it with a stolen butter knife. The pounding got louder. Now my aunts were shouting too. I pushed the window frame with all my might. The paint cracked. It gave way. Cool morning air rushed in. The opening was tiny, meant for ventilation, not escape. But months of starving myself had made me just small enough. She's taking too long, my father boomed from the hall. Break it down. I grabbed my bag from the ceiling, shoved it through the window, and pulled myself up, my shoulders scraping against the frame. The door shook as they slammed their bodies against it. My hips got stuck. I bit my tongue to keep from crying out, twisting sideways. The lock splintered. Just as my legs cleared the window, I dropped 6 feet onto the wet grass below. My ankle twisted, but I didn't stop. I heard shouts erupt behind me. I ran. Barefoot. Across our yard, into the neighbors. Dogs barked, motion lights flashed on. I just kept running. My cousin Omar's car roared to life behind me. Headlights swept across the lawns. I ducked behind garbage cans, my heart hammering against my ribs. The main road was 3 blocks away. I darted between houses, using parked cars for cover. My feet were bleeding now, a piece of glass stuck in my heel, but I couldn't stop. I saw the bus stop just as the morning bus was pulling up. I burst out from between 2 buildings, waving like a maniac. The driver, an older black woman, took one look at my torn nightgown and bloody feet and just held the door open. I climbed the steps and froze. In my panic, I'd left the $20 in the bag. Please, I whispered. I just need to get downtown. An elderly woman in the front seat stood up, pressed the exact change into the machine, and gently guided me to a seat beside her. She didn't ask a single question. The bus pulled away just as Omar's car skidded into the parking lot. I ducked down and the woman shifted slightly, shielding me from view. When we got downtown, she pressed a $10 bill into my hand. "Whatever you're running from, child," she whispered, "don't you ever go back." At the courthouse, I limped through the metal detectors, leaving bloody footprints on the marble floor. A clerk took one look at me and rushed over. "Honey, do you need a doctor?" "Emergency protective order," I gasped out, the words I had practiced in secret for months. "I'm 15. They're forcing me to marry him today. Please." She helped me fill out the forms. My phone, forgotten in my bag, started ringing. Mom. Dad. Omar. Voicemail after voicemail of shame, curses, and threats. A judge read my petition right there in the lobby and granted the order. I clutched the paper like it was my new holy book. But when I called the shelter, my heart sank. They were full. I had nowhere to go. And that's when I remembered Ms. Rodriguez. My teacher. The one who forgot to lock her drawer. 3 bus rides later, I found her in her empty classroom on a Saturday morning. She dropped her pen. Oh my God. She was at my side in a second, cleaning the glass out of my feet with the nurse's first aid kit. And that's when I finally broke down and cried. Real tears. "They were going to make me marry him today," I sobbed. "He's killed 2 wives already." She got on the phone, calling CPS, but they were useless. "No evidence of immediate physical harm," they said. Then my phone rang again. Ms. Rodriguez answered it. It was my father. His voice was calm, reasonable. The voice he used to convince the world he was a respectable man. "She's sick," he was saying. "Mental problems. She needs her medication." Ms. Rodriguez hung up, her face grim. "How did he know you were here?" "My phone." "Of course." They were tracking me. Just then, we heard car doors slam in the parking lot. Ms. Rodriguez locked the classroom door. Male voices echoed in the empty hall. "We know she's here. She's sick, she needs help." They started pounding on the door. "I'm calling 911, Ms. Rodriguez whispered, but I grabbed her hand. "Wait." I rolled up my sleeves and showed her the circular burn scars on my arms. I lifted my nightgown to show her the old, faded belt marks on my back. Her hands shook as she took pictures with her phone. The police arrived just as my family was retreating. And my father, he had transformed. He stood there in his expensive suit, holding prescription bottles with my name on them. "Thank God you're here, officers," he said, the concerned parent. "My daughter is very sick. She has delusions." But they made a mistake. The school security cameras showed them arriving with the prescriptions already in hand. And when I translated my father's angry Arabic whispers to my uncle, "Call the lawyer. The dowry is non-refundable," an officer's expression hardened. "Sir, what dowry?" My father's face went blank. It was over. The CPS supervisor finally declared it. "We're placing her in emergency protective custody." My father lunged at me, screaming about dishonor and betrayal, as 2 officers restrained him. That was the start of everything. The safe houses. The constant looking over my shoulder. My family launched a full-scale war. They couldn't get to me, so they attacked my reputation. They posted my photo all over social media, begging people to find their mentally ill daughter. They even forced my cousin Margie, one of the girls from the shed, to record a video, her eyes dead, reciting a script about how I had lied and tried to poison them against their families. It broke my heart. The court hearing for the permanent protective order was a nightmare. My entire family was there, staring at me with pure hatred. My father's lawyer painted me as a corrupted, lying child. It felt like I was losing. And then the courtroom doors opened. A young woman I'd never seen before walked in with a CPS worker. She took the stand, and my father went pale. My mother gasped. "My name is Fatima Habibi," she said, her voice shaking but clear. I was Hamad Habibi's first wife. I didn't die. The courtroom exploded. She told them everything. How her family had faked her death and helped her disappear after 4 pregnancies by the age of 20 had destroyed her kidneys. How they'd rather have a dead daughter than a divorced one. Her testimony destroyed my father's case. The judge made the protective order permanent. As I left the courtroom, my father stood up. "You are dead to us," he said in Arabic. My mother, standing beside him, pulled off her hijab in a gesture of ultimate rejection. We have no daughter. They erased me. But they couldn't erase what I'd started. The news of my escape, of Fatima's survival, it spread like wildfire. Hidden notebooks with phone numbers and legal advice were copied and passed from girl to girl. I started getting calls from unknown numbers. "I found your notebook," a terrified voice would whisper. "Can you help me?" And I always said yes. Years have passed. My mother is sick now. She's been begging me to come back, saying we're family. But family doesn't hold you down while they sell you. Family doesn't try to destroy you when you refuse to be broken. They tried to erase me. But in doing that, they turned me into something they could never control. A voice. A lifeline. Proof that you can survive them. And every time my phone rings with another girl on the line, asking for help, I know the war isn't over. But I also know, with every girl we save, we're winning.